Gaming has changed a lot over the years. Yeah, real Mandark-sized brain observation here, I know. As one could naturally deduce, this of course means how we engage with and the experience we get from gaming has changed a lot too. Like, remember when you were a kid and you got a new game? You would look at the manual before diving in, either to get acquainted with the game's mechanics, its story and characters, or just to admire the cool art. And to our younger viewers who cannot relate to this, just imagine. You know, the topic of the video, right? Anyway, the highly detailed manual art, of course, never matched the actual game, but that didn't matter. You knew what it was supposed to look like, and that was all your imagination needed. Hell, this is how we deluded ourselves into thinking that Squall was indeed the best looking dude at the dance. The generations I grew up with did require some decent imagination, but obviously the farther back you go, the more that only amplified. Like, look at these Intellivision game boxes compared to the actual games. To say your imagination had to do some heavy lifting would be an understatement. It was like the equivalent of Ronnie Coleman pushing like 10 plates. On the other hand, now when we get a new game, we pretty much know exactly what it's gonna look like. You'll either see gameplay clips or screenshots if buying digitally, and physical cases will often just have renders straight from the game on them. No imagination needed. This goes far beyond just expectations going into the game though. Certain visual styles required a strong use of imagination. Pre-rendered backgrounds are a good example. You couldn't go everywhere or see everything in that game's world as you were limited to what the static image on screen showed you. Your imagination had to fill in the gaps, and that mystery was enticing. It's not just pre-rendered backgrounds though that evoke this feeling, like backdrops in a side-scrolling game. Of course, you can't actually go back there, but seeing all the details from buildings in the distance to mountains and forests and stuff like that, your mind just starts wondering, what is out there? Invisible walls in 3D games also have the same effect. The game doesn't want you to go beyond here, but that just makes you want to go beyond it even more. It's like the allure of the unknown, you know? It's why videos about going out of bounds in games are so popular. It just gets your imagination going. I was fascinated by this concept at a young age. Who else remembers the shovel glitch in the original Fable? This lets you clip out of bounds and explore places you weren't supposed to go. Now, did I ever find anything that cool doing this? No, not at all. It was actually a waste of time, but the thought of finding something cool was all I needed. Again, imagination. It's a wonderful thing. Sometimes it can even be better than reality. Like, a still image can make a world seem so vast and expansive and make you want to find all of its wonders. Now, some games do successfully translate this feeling into an open world and nail the execution. For some other games though, it's like, yeah, there's really not a whole lot to do or see here. It's kinda just the same thing over and over again. Maybe it was better off being left to mystery. It's kind of similar to the coolness factor of someone who never takes off their mask so you don't know what they actually look like, or the sexiness of an attractive person wearing a little clothing but not bearing it all. There's something to be said about leaving some things to the imagination. That same logic can also apply to games. Going back to certain visual styles stimulating your imagination, another favorite example of mine in retro games is highly detailed portraits or characters in like a shop interface or a cutscene or something. It's kinda similar to the instruction manual and concept artifact. You get to see a more accurate representation of what the developers really had in mind. Oh yeah, did I not talk about concept and promo art earlier? Man, I used to love looking at these as a kid. It was like a glimpse into the true vision. I remember I had that Super Mario 64 Metal Mario render as a folder back in elementary school. I would love putting shit in here anytime I could. That folder was disproportionately balanced with papers because I kept taking every chance I could to bust it out and admire the aesthetic. Anyway, back to what I was saying a bit ago. Like going to shops in an old East game? So cool. Or what about those Ninja Gaiden cutscenes on the Nintendo? Those were awesome. And those comic book panel style cutscenes in Phantasy Star 4? Dude, I could talk about these all day. These just fired up my imagination as it made me wonder more about how the world really looked. The better the graphics got over time though, The less disconnect there was between cutscenes in the gameplay and, in result, the less imagination you had to use. I think the 5th generation was really the last era to have a sizable difference between the cutscenes and gameplay. Sometimes it wouldn't even just be in-game cutscenes, it would be like a opening FMV or full motion video that would play before the game started. By the way, if you love these as much as I do, check out our hour-long video about PlayStation FMVs. To show you guys what I'm talking about, our channel intro features a lot of these. This is a different type of video for us, so normally we would have played it by now, but yeah, let's just make it the intermission this time. Enjoy.
The light is your guide.
A dream is what keeps you going.
Now is the time to shape your story. Your fate is in your hands.
Most of those clips showed far more detail than what their in-game graphics could show. These not only got your imagination all excited for the world you were about to dive into, but because they were so detailed, they really immersed you into the setting as well. And that point kinda brings me to the second half of this video. Due to how good graphics are nowadays, the immersion factor is the highest it's ever been. Like, if you just want to get lost and immersed in a world and see all the individual blades of grass on the ground, or the sunlight reflecting on the water, then, needless to say, you can do that better than ever before. In fact, some games even make realistic immersion their main focal point. No Man's Sky is extremely immersive with its huge focus on exploration and its really unique and gorgeous environments. I mean, seriously, these locations are so beautiful. I love the immersion here, as it's what the game is all about. Sometimes, when a game tries to be too immersive though, I'm not always the biggest fan. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the most immersive game I've ever played. It's also far from the most fun game I've ever played, but I think it is the most immersive. If you just want to realistically roleplay the life of a cowboy outlaw dude, then I don't think you can make a better game. You want to go rob a train? Go for it. Want to ride around on your horse, taking in nature and set up camp later? Go right ahead. Want to just get drunk at the saloon all day and then take a bath? Hey, knock yourself out. Before someone else does it to you first, that is. The game requires zero imagination because it completely immerses you into its world. Depending on who you ask though, this could be a good or a bad thing. In order to fully sell the immersion, it includes all the tedious and mundane aspects as well. You know, like doing chores around camp. Slowly, I might add, since you can't run there. Showing each step of the animal skinning process. Watching your character physically open drawers to grab items and whatnot, and yeah, you get the idea. This is all very immersive, yes. But at what cost? While I absolutely respected the hell out of the game and the experience the developers were able to deliver, to me it just wasn't really that fun, so I never beat it. I know some people really love the game though and consider many of the things I just said as positives, so I'm not here to argue that one way to approach game design is inherently better or worse than the other. I think they both definitely have their place depending on what you're looking for. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a pretty extreme example though when it comes to immersion. There's plenty of other open world games that don't double down on their realistic immersion, yet are still very immersive. This is my preferred approach when it comes to open worlds. Immerse me into the world, yes, but don't try so hard that it just stops being fun to play. Bottom line, I play games to have fun, so if I'm not having fun, it doesn't matter how immersive the world is. Even if it's not always realistic, I still like my games to have some video gamey elements to them, especially if it makes the experience more enjoyable to play. Like, overall, I enjoyed my time with Final Fantasy XVI, however, I hated how in towns you could only lightly jog and do like this pitiful 1-inch jump. Is this immersive and realistic to how you would actually act in a town? I mean, yeah, but is it fun to control? Not really. Whereas in a game like Star Ocean: The Divine Force, I'm just flying across town, collecting crystals and shit. I don't care if it ruins the immersion factor. I don't play games for the sole purpose of being immersed. Immersion just comes as a byproduct of me being super into the game and having a lot of fun. It's why I can get just as immersed into a game like Final Fantasy IX as I can with any other game out there, even the ones with super fancy graphics and highly realistic environments. Write a good story, create charming characters, and design engaging gameplay, and I'm not only gonna be immersed as hell, but I'm just gonna be having a good ass time too. Personally, I think the 5th and 6th generation struck the best balance between imagination and immersion. I could probably extend that to the 4th and 7th generations as well. The 4th and 5th gens leaned more towards the imagination side, whereas the 6th and 7th gens leaned more towards the immersion side. Depending on what side I feel like leaning towards, I feel like these are often the best sweet spots for me. Like, sometimes I don't want voice acting. I want to imagine how each character sounds myself, as there's just something unique and special about that. Then, other times, great voice acting can immerse me in like no other. I do want to clarify great voice acting though, as bad voice acting, well, that can take me out of the story pretty quick. Anyway, the point is, whether you want to use your imagination or have the game do a lot of that work for you to really immerse you into its world, there are multiple ways to engage with the video game experience, and I think that's pretty cool. No matter if you want more imagination or more immersion though, I think most of us can agree on this one simple thing. Just make the game fun.
That's right.
Head to the go-go, baby!
You actually think you can stop me, do you?
Shut your trap, Maverick!
Alright, and that about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching everyone, we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please either consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I feel like this is the type of video that'll either do really well or completely flop like our last video about early cell shading, so it'll be interesting to see. Let us know how you felt about it in the comments below though. Also, what are your favorite games for imagination and what are your favorite games for immersion? Let us know about that too. As always, just want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, and of course an extra special shout out to our top patrons, Chris Carnaccio, Derek Drost, Jesse Spencer, Jump Rock, Justin, and Sayano. All of your support and generosity is very much appreciated. Other than that, thanks again for watching everyone and hope you have an awesome day. This is Corbin from Gaming Productions. Until next time.